Most people still think ketamine is just a horse tranquilizer or a dangerous party drug, but the truth is way more complex and surprising. From saving lives in war zones to offering rapid relief for mental health struggles, ketamine's story has been badly misunderstood. Today we're myth-busting the 13 biggest misconceptions about ketamine therapy and sharing what you actually need to know instead. You've probably heard this first myth before. Ketamine, despite being used as a human anesthetic since the 1970s, can't seem to shake its reputation as a horse tranquilizer. But to say that's the only purpose it serves is absolutely wrong. Yes, ketamine has been used in vet clinics for horses, but it has also been used in emergency rooms, pediatric units, and war zones to dull the pain of millions of people. The World Health Organization actually includes ketamine on their list of essential medicines, meaning it's considered one of the most effective and safe medicines in the world. And now it is proving increasingly promising as a treatment for mental illnesses in therapeutic settings. Myth number 2, ketamine is an illegal party drug. Let's break this down into two parts. First, is it illegal? Well, yes and no. Ketamine is classified as a Schedule I controlled substance and can be legally prescribed by health professionals. For mental health treatment, it's prescribed off-label, meaning you're planning to take the medication for a purpose other than what it was originally approved for. But don't worry, this is safe and common in medical practice. However, it is not legal to take ketamine recreationally or without this prescription. When used as a party drug, the effects are unpredictable and can be unsafe, which is worlds away from the experience of patients in ketamine-assisted therapy, where controlled doses are administered in a safe, monitored environment. But ketamine treatment can still be dangerous, right? Ketamine has been used safely as an anesthetic for decades, with a well-understood safety profile. In ketamine-assisted therapy, we use much lower doses than those for anesthesia, about 10 to 25% of what's routinely administered in hospitals every day. At reputable clinics, every ketamine-assisted therapy session is carefully controlled with vital signs monitored throughout. There's always a medical professional present, creating a safe environment very different from recreational use. While there are mild and transient potential side effects, serious adverse effects are rare in clinical settings. In that same vein, many people think ketamine is highly addictive. Frequent high-dose use in recreational settings does carry a risk of addiction. However, we have the clinical trial data to show that ketamine, when used as directed for treating depression at very low doses, carries a low risk of addiction. Plus, the frequency of treatment is carefully managed to prevent physical dependence. Myth number 5, ketamine causes psychosis. You might have heard that ketamine causes hallucinations and altered perception, but this isn't the same thing as inducing psychosis. Ketamine can cause altered perceptions, but this isn't psychosis. Psychosis involves a persistent disconnect from reality. While ketamine's effects are temporary and expected, some people experience dreamlike states or unusual thought patterns during treatment. What's fascinating is that these altered states are often key to ketamine's therapeutic effects, helping patients gain new perspectives on thoughts and emotions that have kept them trapped in cycles of suffering. Which brings us to myth number 6. These dissociations are so strong, you'll fall into the famous K-hole. A K-hole is the colloquial term for an intense dissociative state you can enter when using ketamine in high recreational doses. But the truth is, in therapeutic settings, we're not aiming for a K-hole at all. The doses are carefully calibrated to promote a mild to moderate dissociative state, which is used for therapeutic insights without becoming overwhelming. Many patients describe their experience as floating or watching a movie of their thoughts. Most importantly, you're always under medical supervision in a safe, controlled environment designed for healing. Most people don't think of ketamine as a psychedelic. That word carries a lot of imagery and connotation, usually associated with other substances like LSD, magic mushrooms, and marijuana. But in medical terms, any substance that alters perception, mood, and cognitive processes is considered a psychedelic, and by that definition, ketamine most definitely qualifies. In therapy, these psychedelic properties aren't a side effect. They're central to the healing process. The altered state of consciousness allows patients to examine thoughts, emotions, and memories from new perspectives, often breaking free from negative patterns that have persisted for years. Research into ketamine for mental health began in the early 2000s, when researchers noticed that fast-acting antidepressant effects. This launched 2 decades of intensive scientific investigation, which culminated in 2019 when S-ketamine, a ketamine derivative, gained FDA approval for treatment-resistant depression. Major institutions like Yale, Stanford, and Johns Hopkins have established ketamine research programs. So the misconception that ketamine-assisted therapy is some hippy-dippy woo-woo stuff is just not true. The scientific evidence has become so compelling that ketamine therapy has moved into mainstream psychiatric practice in the last few years. Ketamine is perhaps perhaps most well known for its effects on treatment-resistant depression, but has potential for so much more. Clinical research shows ketamine is promising for anxiety, PTSD, alcohol use disorder, chronic pain, eating disorders, OCD, suicidal ideation, and bipolar depression. Ketamine's dissociative effects can help anxiety patients step back from anxious thought patterns. PTSD patients report that ketamine helps them process traumatic memories with less emotional pain, while chronic pain sufferers say ketamine helps break the cycle of pain and depression that often feed off each other. There has certainly been a lot of hype in the mental health press lately about ketamine, which has given rise to myth number 10, that ketamine is a silver bullet or cure-all for mental health disorders. The short answer is, it's not. Ketamine has shown remarkable promise, especially for fast relief of depression symptoms. It's not a magic pill that makes all mental health issues disappear. It performs well for conditions like depression, PTSD, and anxiety, but it's most effective when used as part of a comprehensive treatment approach that includes talk therapy and integration sessions, not as a standalone solution. There are also limitations about who can undergo ketamine therapy, as it isn't safe for everyone, which brings me to myth number 11. Before undergoing ketamine-assisted therapy, you'll be subjected to a screening process where you're asked about your medical history, undergo a psychiatric assessment, and finally, a physical exam. This is primarily to check for contraindications that would make ketamine-assisted therapy harmful for you, like any medication you might be on that could interact with the ketamine dose, making sure that there's no cardiovascular risks like high blood pressure or underlying heart conditions, no history of psychosis or psychological vulnerabilities that could be exacerbated by the treatment, and making sure that you're not pregnant. But if you pass the screening, perhaps you expect ketamine to be a one-and-done treatment. And in my experience, and according to the science, that's not usually the case. For most patients, ketamine therapy is more of a process. A typical course involves a series of treatments over several weeks to establish and stabilize the effects, often followed by periodic maintenance sessions. I've seen patients experience profound shifts after a single session. I've seen others who needed several treatments before noticing change, and I've even seen patients who don't respond to ketamine at all. This variability is precisely why reputable clinics focus on personalized treatment plans, combining the ketamine with psychotherapy for lasting change. Some people believe ketamine therapy is just symptom management, that it doesn't get to the root cause of mental health conditions. The way ketamine works on the brain is entirely different from most traditional antidepressants, which ironically are symptom managers themselves. In simple terms, ketamine enhances the brain's ability to form new connections. This brain flexibility or neuroplasticity can help patients break out of rigid thought patterns and behaviors that have persisted for years. Many patients report that ketamine helps them access and process emotions or memories they've struggled with for a very long time. With the right follow-up integration work, these insights often lead to lasting changes that go far beyond just symptom relief. Don't let these outdated myths and misinformation prevent you from exploring legitimate options that may help you. If you want a deeper look into how ketamine works in the brain, watch this next video. Thanks for watching. Until next time.